Caro, Tasmania. All right, we've had all the hoopla and all the PR and all the niceties. Now we're getting down to cold, hard cash, and suddenly the rubber's starting to leave the road.
I would frame it more as a cold, hard cash grab, Ed, from where the AFL's concerned. We talk about North Melbourne for the entirety of the first segment. Inevitably, North Melbourne and Tasmania still get talked about. Gillon McLachlan, we know, saw that as a great opportunity and a great compromise to have an 18th team, not a 19th licence, but North Melbourne in Tasmania. Some of the club presidents, a growing number of club presidents, worried about their own coffers, their own backyard, are turning on Tasmania. Mind you, they haven't seen the numbers yet. And so North has spoken about again. North is adamant they are not going to Tasmania full time. Tasmania is adamant they don't want North Melbourne. But Ed, I fear that Gillon McLachlan is losing the hunger, losing the appetite for Tasmania. He still has not met Jeremy Rockliff, the Tasmanian Premier, since he became Premier, and nor has Richard Goyder.
He's been overseas. He's trying to do a $500 million a year.
This is a first-order priority, and he has not seen that as a priority, and neither does Richard Goyder. The task force met in head office, I understand, last Friday. No sign of Gillon McLachlan at that meeting. The AFL have asked Colin Carter, in his report, said 7 to 11 million should be the government subsidy. The AFL have asked the Tasmanian government for $20 million a year. The task force have put forward a pretty big offer. I can't tell you the actual numbers, but I know it's a 10-year offer with a lot extra in the first year and around the top end of Colin Carter's numbers. Right. The AFL is not interested. I fear this is a cash grab to get the presidents over the line with the AFL knowing it's an ambit claim and won't happen.
Cara, can I say this to you?
And I just want to say one more thing, Ed. If this doesn't happen, that's it. That's the end of Tasmania getting a team. That is the end of footy in Tasmania.
Forever.
Well,
that's a bit dramatic.
Let's hang on.
Forever.
It's that dramatic.
In the near term.
It's that dramatic, Ross.
Let's move on to it.
It is that dramatic.
Caro, can I say this?
Less players disappearing, less grounds. The appetite will
go. In Tasmania.
Right, forget that part. Caro.
It's an impending sporting tragedy.
You mentioned the Colin Carter report.
And a social tragedy.
OK, that's that. Now let me get back to tin tax. Because, as I said last week...
I've given you the tin tax.
Well, you're the numbers man, Ed.
Right, let's go back to April 7 when I did this editorial on this show. You can have a standalone team in the AFL competition in 2028. But from this year, you need to contribute not $10 million, but $20 million per season, indexed forever. Now, here's where things get really interesting. If we're going to have the trouble of bringing Tasmania in, it makes sense to not only have a 19th team, but a 20th as well. And tonight we hear that the Northern Territory Task Force is going into operation and looking at building a new ground. My point to you, Caro, is this. I think that the numbers on Colin Carter's report were under. I think that every time the AFL have pitched an expansion team, they've been miles under in selling it to the presidents, and the presidents aren't going to cop it. And they are the figures, not if you want to, not in hoping, they are the figures that will give you a chance of having a successful team in Tasmania, not another team that's getting beaten for the next 10 years.
But are you saying 20 million has to come just from the government?
Absolutely.
Forget the corporates, forget everything.
20 from them, 20 from the AFL, and 20 from the federal government.
The AFL have offered 8 million.
Yeah, but they'll pay 20.
That's what the AFL give Collingwood, one of the richest clubs in the AFL, every year. The AFL are offering Tasmania what they give Collingwood.
Do you think a state government should be able to provide $20 million?
Yes, of course
I think it's a bit over.
No, it's not.
For a state government, $20 million.
Can I just say this?
Out of their budget.
No, but it's not just that, Ross. Yeah. It goes in from the education budget. It comes from the health budget. It comes from the tourism budget. By the time you go around a few times and you go to the federal government to build the stadium and the rest of it, it's not that big a deal. Everyone says $20 million. But it's a rounding error in what we're trying to do.
You think that a 10-year commitment is not long enough?
10 years... Forever is what I said.
Hey, Caro, can I ask you, has Gillon McLachlan, Colin Cole...
Or, hang on, just one thing, can I just jump in? Caro, or it's privately owned.
Okay. Yep. Hey, has Gillon
one more thing, $8 million is not enough from the AFL.
Caro, has he gone cold because he wants it to be someone else's problem, or he's gone cold in that he just thinks Tassie's not the option?
I just ask you, Matthew, why aren't we hearing more about list plans, about the academy
but
plans?
I'm just wondering, when you check out as a coach, often you have to leave. When you check out as a CEO, he's probably thinking that's someone else's problem.
Hey, he's got one job to do.
Yeah, and that's
close
TV
the deal on the TV rights, because that pays for everything.
Yeah, but they listed Tasmania as that would be resolved before he left.
But
And I feel
Karen,
at the moment he's disengaging. The fact he hasn't even
I
bothered
think
to
that
meet
is
the
totally
new
wrong.
Premier.
I spoke to Gil tonight. I shouldn't talk about this. It was a private conversation. He is flat out. He's got his tongue hanging out. He's working that hard at the moment.
I understand
and I'd tell you if I didn't think he was, and if I thought he'd checked out, I'd say it. But get off the $8 million, because that's rubbish. It could be right. I'm not saying you're wrong or anything else like that in what you said. They will pay $20 million. I know. I was in the meetings.
What's the government offering? What's the Tasmanian? What is the number they're putting
forward? It's a 10-year deal and a massive amount at the beginning, well over $100 million.
So
privately owned, government owned. They have to own the team. I'll tell you what people are sick of in the AFL.
More than that.
All the clubs are sick of funding everybody else at the moment. You said Collingwood gets 8. They're not that rich, and it's the other teams as well, because they're funding half a dozen different teams.
Yeah.
And everyone's got to start paying their way in the AFL very shortly.